Hey guys, it's Mo from Mo in the Deep End, and I am going to be looking into this trial that Jamie sent me, and it looks like this is going into the fourth trial of this woman. So I wanted to get sort of a kind of backstory going. So I figured we would start with local news because local news seems to have the news, and then we would go to law or lawn and crime, if you will. Lawn and crime is all the funness. Fryberto, if Fry barking, and we're back. Fry is still laboring under the total belief that if he barks enough at Loki, Loki will eventually realize that that means he wants to play and they will become the bestest of friends. But Fry says, Loki says, no, no, I don't want to be barked at. And one day he's going to get bopped on the nose, and I'm going to feel semi bad for him. Not terribly bad, but semi bad. So let's go into this and see what local news has to say. Now, this is about a year old, but since this is sort of background on the present or new trial coming up, I figured we could go into this and figure out what's going on together since this is a new trial for me.
Out of jail awaiting her fourth trial.
Today, a judge granted bail for Cara Rintala. And Western Mass News reporter Paris Dunford joins us now live with the very latest updates in that case. Paris.
Chris, Jordan, Cara Rintala is on her way to her parents' house in Rhode Island, where she will now stay with her daughter until her next trial.
Cara Rintala is accused of murdering her wife back in 2010, and on Tuesday, she was allowed to head home to live with her family in Rhode Island as she awaits a fourth trial. Her case is very unique since she's been tried 3 different times for the charge of first-degree murder. The first 2 times.
Look, and all I have to say, if I were seriously a taxpayer here, I'd be like, oh, so have we caught all the robbery suspects and all of the other murder suspects? Are we going after the same damn person for a bajillion dollars again? Because swear to goodness, I will lose my shit if this is like a bajillion and 27,000 trillion dollars that we've done spent on this woman. You know, when you got 2 hung juries, 1 conviction that was overturned, I'm gonna lose my crap.
Ended in a hung jury, and the 3rd time she was convicted, but the verdict was overturned.
The only difference was unreliable and ultimately inadmissible so-called expert opinion testimony that the SJC held was admitted in error.
Western Mass News was there Tuesday morning for a bail hearing that was held for Rintala. Defense asked that she be released on personal recognizance and permitted to live with her parents and daughter in Rhode Island. They cited her previous success while out on bail, as well as her background, for reasons why the judge should grant their request.
She has a life of service. She was, before this case, she was a firefighter and a paramedic, and she owned her own home in Granby, and she was married, and she had a small child.
But Assistant District Attorney Stephen Gagne worried Rintala would be a flight risk, and there could be technical problems with the GPS monitoring if she resided outside the Bay State.
If there were any violations of pretrial conditions of release or any issues with GPS, it would be much more logistically and legally difficult for a Massachusetts warrant to be effectuated quickly in a different state.
The judge ruled that Rintala could stay with her parents and daughter in Rhode Island and set her bail at $50,000. Rintala will be monitored by GPS.
We were delighted that the court granted that request, so she will be able to spend the time waiting for the fourth trial with.
His name is Chauncey. This is okay. Wait, let me move. Ta-da! I have never seen a Chauncey in like the wild before. This is a banner day for all of Mo Nation. All right, continue.
With her parents and her daughter, who she misses very much.
More than a dozen of Rintala's family members and friends were in court for the hearing, most of them very emotional after the judge read his decision.
Now, Attorney Wood says there is no date set for the fourth trial as of now, and he does not think it will be anytime soon. However, there is a hearing scheduled for December 17th to appoint counsel. Reporting live, Paris Dunford for Western Mass News.
A woman accused.
Oh, okay. So that is what we have for that, at least. Fryberto, You are a pain in the Berto. You really are. So the next thing we have is, okay, back to StreamYard, present, share screen, ta-da. I am only a genius in my brain. All right, Massachusetts woman accused of murdering her wife is scheduled to stand trial for the fourth time in 8 years. I mean, at some point, doesn't this just become cruel and unusual? Doesn't the process just become the punishment at some point? A woman charged with killing her wife will stand trial on September 2023 as the first of its kind murder case in Massachusetts involving a married lesbian couple nears a fourth jury trial in 8 years. A Massachusetts judge late last week announced that Rintala, 54, will be allowed to live in Rhode Island as she prepares for the next trial. While remaining on bail, she was granted in November of last year. The defendant has been tried 3 times for the murder of her then wife, 37-year-old Anne Marie Cochran Rintala, who was found at the bottom of her basement stairs, bloody and beaten, cold to the touch, covered in paint, as first responders described the scene. A medical examiner determined that Cochran Rintala had been strangled to death. Also found at the bottom of the staircase by the authorities was Rintala herself, cradling her deceased spouse, similarly washed in white paint, that was proven pivotal in the lengthy criminal prosecution over the death first reported on March 29th, 2010. Interesting. Over a year later, on October 19th, 2011, the defendant was indicted for her wife's murder. Rintala has consistently maintained her innocence. The case has long drawn national attention due to Rintala being the first married lesbian charged with murdering her spouse in Massachusetts. I really don't care about that. I mean, it's salacious and all that, I get it, but I don't care. I mean, she either did or she didn't. And puppy cam. Fry may or may not get a toy every time I go out. I'm a terrible, indulgent parent. But the problem is that, and of course this is a tangent, Bunny, this is just for you. At night, he wants to go into demon mode, so I've been reading, and if he wants to start biting me or something bad, you're supposed to say no and give him something that he's supposed to or can bite. So if I have 2 or 3 things easily within reach that he is allowed to bite, it's nice. So I keep buying things that he's allowed to bite because his favorite thing seems to be underpants and socks, which, yeah, no. And a bra, which he got stuck in, and he was very scared this morning. He got stuck in a bra. He was scared. I don't know how he did it. I was using the restroom. I start hearing crying and whining, and he has stuccated himself in a whole damn bra. And of course, wouldn't stop wiggling to let me get him out of it. But that was Fry's terrible escape from bra story. And it goes with the story not at all, but there you go. In Massachusetts, the first U.S. state to legalize same-sex marriage. Each of her first 2 trials, held in 2013 and 2014, ended up with hung juries and mistrials and were declared in Hampshire County. The Northwestern District Attorney's Office was able to secure a first-degree murder conviction and commutant life sentence on the 3rd go-round, but Massachusetts Supreme Court tossed that conviction and sentence as summer drew to a close in 2021. The judges on the Bay State's highest court said the prosecution's lone and eventual successful effort against Rintala's liberty relied on expert testimony about the paint that wasn't really expert after all. The third fumble in as many tries was because Deputy DA Jennifer Soule and her team called to the stand, David Guglianelli, whom the court described as, quote, a quality engineer at the company that manufactured the paint found at the crime scene. To opine on paint-related issues during his testimony, he told the jurors that, in the court's words, that, quote, the paint found at the crime scene was poured deliberately and not spilled, and that the paint was poured no more than 4 hours before the photographs were taken of the crime scene just after 9 p.m. The court found that Guglianelli's testimony was erroneous because, to the extent that it was based on anything more than its own opinion, it mainly relied on a small number of non-scientific experiments. Oh my God, he threw his cell phone around the office. Of course he did. What the F are these freaking prosecutors doing? In those 6 experiments, the would-be expert compared drying times on standard paint industry charts under several different conditions. Flaws abounded with this approach, the court explained. Guglianelli testified that he had never done an experiment like this before, nor had anyone in his company. He never testified about paint drying in any court proceeding and was unaware of any other incident of such testimony. He also did not do any research on the topic or search any academic industry materials on this topic. Rather than flowing naturally from his work, therefore, his experiment greatly differed from the work that he ordinarily performed and observations that he had experience making. His opinions were developed solely to assist the Commonwealth's prosecution of the defendant. FFS. Jiminy Christmas. I mean, this woman has the presumption of innocence, and let's say that she came home and her wife really just had a terrible accident. Just a terrible accident. And this just D-bag from the paint company comes in to be the star witness for the prosecution, who basically says, yeah, I threw around a couple of cans of paint. I took I took the cell phone to my office, bro. It totally, works as such. I totally do all my research in my office, bro. What kind of, to quote Disenchantment, what kind of science are you using, sir? Also, if you would like something Futurama adjacent, Disenchantment is a good show. This is taking all the tangents today. I am sorry. Guglianelli's, look, his name is going to come out. G's experiment did not take into account the surface upon which the paint was found, a dead body, concrete, as opposed to a sealed chart. He also didn't take into account and control for the disturbances in the paint caused by the defendant and the responders. To the extent he considered temperature and humidity, he was dependent on the accuracy of the readings of the crime scene, which were not verified. At this time, the prosecution will be helmed by Northwestern's 1st District Attorney, Stephen E. Gagney. The defendant is currently being represented by Boston-based attorneys Chauncey Wood and Rosemary Scappuccino. Wood told Law and Crime that the defense would not be making any comments or releasing any kind of statement. Quote, murder cases are the most serious cases this office handles, First Assistant DA Stephen Gagney said after the 4th trial was scheduled last Friday, according to the Daily Hampshire Gazette. Quote, we believe very strongly in our case and we're committed to obtaining justice for the victim and her family. The defendant is currently living with her elderly parents and teenage daughter in the Plantation State. She was released on $50,000 cash bail or $500,000 personal surety by Hampshire Superior Court. Judge Richard Carey without objection from the state. Rintala's legal team posted the cash bail immediately after the hearing. So this is going to be definitely a case I want to look at. It sounds like the DA has been grasping at straws. Sounds like the original evidence they used in the first two cases was sus as hell and wasn't convincing anyone. So they brought in the DuPont man and they were like, oh, well, he's a paintologist. And then the Supreme Court said, "Oh, Mr. Paintologist, did you do any of the sciencing?" And he's like, "No, I looked at this chart." And they said, "Are you for serial? You didn't even take the cell phone to your office and throw it around?" "Nope, looked at this chart. I'm a scientist." And they said, "Yeah, no." So I don't believe that they are as excited about their actual case as they're claiming, but it is going to be one to watch because I definitely feel like there's going to be a hell of a lot of shenanigans. I think that they've already invested way too much. I think you're going to see just, I'm not a futurologist, if you will, but I believe that you are going to see a lot of desperation, a lot of emotional manipulation, a lot of implication, a lot of innuendo from the state, as we see when they have literally nothing. Now, it seems like the juries have been, pretty well informed and pretty critical of the state's case in the last two of three cases. So I wonder what kind of super secret, awesome sauce case they have now. But, if they're not allowed to use the paint thing, I don't know. I will go back and, read the original case material, but just what little I'm reading now, it is looking all the sus, and I am going to be really excited when this goes and we can see what kind of shenanigans these prosecutors are going to be looking at. Have a wonderful day. Please like and subscribe if you like this channel video. If you didn't, thank you at least for watching. I'm a mouthy redhead. I get it. Uh, so like it or not, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday and see you soon. Bye, guys.